It's very important that we have compassion for ourselves right now. It is very important that we have compassion for ourselves, because that's the only way we're going to be able to do it for anybody else, is if we haven't learned to master that, because this whole thing is about self-mastery. And that's really what the word natar was really showing when I broke it down and gave all the moving pieces of that word, is truly about self-mastery. And I found it interesting that the word natar, that when the lamed was added on it, that even through the transliteration of this word is neutral, and it literally means to neutralize. So here we have a word that is talking to us about guarding and protecting and keeping and watching all of this, and then getting us into the lamed on the father side, saying these are the deeper instructions that will allow you to neutralize those things that have gotten us into indolence, that have gotten us into this place where we have sat back and we've become potentially very lazy in the way that we're approaching, when it's saying that it's up to you to guard and protect and do these things for yourselves. That this is part of those that are going to be in the two different camps. Because remember, we're still in verse 3. It was a long verse. And we were talking about the two different camps, the ones that are waiting for Yeshua HaMashiach, that frequency to come to rescue him, versus those that are from the Allah, the Huba camp, that have guarded and protected themselves, that have done the work, that have guarded themselves from the indolence, that have picked up where they needed to and wrestled within and have begun the process of neutralizing. Because remember, part of that word had to do with sovereigns, in not being pulled into the drama and choosing a side. So when there's two factions that are warring, those who are the sovereign, that are the guardians and the protectors, do not choose a side. But the language is saying we cannot intervene. We cannot take a side, because this wrestling is necessary for our growth. And it's an individual wrestle. It ends up manifesting on the macro level, but really it's all about what's going on right in here. Why that tet is right in the middle. And this is why I went into great detail about the difference between the Netzar and the Netar, because it was not written with Netzar having anything to do with Christianity. It had nothing to do with the seed of Caesar, the seed of Rome. It had everything to do with our own sovereignty and not being under something that is oppressing and binding us and putting us in cramped and confined in places and creating foes, creating enemies. Because really that projection is because you have created an enemy within yourself that you're wrestling. Your own inward reality is what you're wrestling. And that's why these energies for some of us are really kicking our butts. And why Ken, when he shared that by the grace that we understand what's going on, so it's not catching us blindly and we have no idea why it's happening. We are so blessed to be able to know why it's happening so that we can assist others in this process. Go ahead.
Do you want you working?
I'm just going to shift gears. So if you have something.
Well, everything's connected right now, and it's moving very quickly. But this whole, even this word for Khazar, that the form of Caesar, and that this measure of Caesar, that he wreathed himself, and this is the laurel wreath. And when you look at even the word for laurel in the language, is directly connected to what surrounds you as a prison. And doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing or a good thing. Connecting with Carrie was sharing, is that we build our own prison, but the prison is really the place that we take hold. It's where we lay siege, so we can render clear as the result. A prison can be a pretty system. It can be a place of resolve. It doesn't mean it's negative to say prison. It can also be a place of control and torture, but it can be a beautiful place. We're all in a pretty prison system right now. And this word for trust is directly connected to this, because as Carrie was sharing, that the word for trust is the exact same word in Hebrew for secure, and it means to make safe or safeguard and to make oneself a master of. That's what secure means. And so even we have to ask ourselves the question, because the laurel wreath by definition goes to crown, tar.
Mhm.
And it means what surrounds you will be your circumstances. So the laurel wreath is where we get the saying, sitting on your laurel, that for the majority of the world, they're sitting on their crown. That for the majority of the world, they haven't realized that the crown is actually your circumstance of events. It's the laurel that is around you that will produce the thoughts that you're going to have to wrestle. And that is the prison system, good or bad or indifferent. But we render it down and collapse it. The prism is simply a place to siege and take hold, to render clear.
Neutral.
Neutral. And it goes right to Emmanuel. The name that surrounds you is what you're going to wrestle. Enter the door within to neutralize your prison system. Have hope right now. Secure yourself.